every Marvel movie ever.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Every Marvel Movie Ever. I'm your host, Gabe Thomas. With me, as always, is your co-host, Francis Cole Collin. And today we are talking about the best Punisher film to ever be made. We've talked about that. Oh no, Franny, what kind of episode is this gonna be?
Probably the same as always, where I just agree with you.
Okay. Anyway, today we're talking about Lexi Alexander's film Punisher Warzone. We've talked about the Punisher from 1989 with Dolph Lundgren. We've talked about the Punisher.
That's the best one.
The Punisher. We've talked about the Punisher 2004 with Thomas Jane, and now we're talking about Punisher Warzone from 2008, December 5th, 2008, with Ray Stevenson. It had a budget of like $35 million and made about $10 back.
$10.
So, $10 back. So, not great. I think this is the lowest grossing Marvel film ever made that got a theatrical release.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say.
We don't talk about Man-Thing.
Man-Thing
as
doesn't
far
exist.
as money, monetary type stuff, whatever.
Poor Man-Thing.
Poor Man-Thing. Everybody should watch it. And everybody should watch Punisher Warzone because I adore this movie and I think it's so great.
It is a very entertaining and very good movie. That
I
was
love
such
this
bad
film.
grammar.
That's okay. That's okay.
It was.
Don't worry
It's a
about
very a good.
It is a very good movie because it is a good movie, and I think it's awesome. I think this movie.
It is awesome, but
this movie is what every single action movie should be. It's so kind of just high adrenaline, high octane, crazy shit happening. Kill count in this movie is insane.
it's like, isn't it like almost 90?
No, it's past 100.
Is
it's
it?
like 103 people, I think. 83 of which are by Frank
Oh,
Castle
okay, that's
himself.
what I was thinking.
So, holy shit, that's a lot. Yeah, I don't even know how to talk about this. I guess first just saying, directed by Lexi Alexander. She hasn't done too much. She's awesome, but she hasn't done too much. She's very vocal about like political stuff on Twitter. She's cool there. She directed a movie with Elijah Wood called Green Street Hooligans in like 2005. It's apparently very good.
Is she like annoying about political stuff, or does she just have a lot of opinions?
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm sure a lot of people won't agree with me. I think that everything she says is pretty right on and awesome. I think she's great. Did you listen to that How Did This Get Made?
I did.
Okay, you didn't?
I did.
Okay, yeah. So she was on that in like 2011 with Patton Oswalt and the people who do the How Did This Get Made podcast. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of stuff from that interview that we'll definitely reference throughout this because it's really cool. And she seems awesome, or at least I think so. But first, maybe we should talk about kind of why this movie exists, because there was going to be a Jonathan Hensleigh-directed Thomas Jane sequel to that first one.
There should have been.
Yeah, because I really like that movie.
Yeah.
But I like Punisher Warzone quite a bit more. I think Punisher Warzone is like fucking top. I think it's so great. But yeah, we were going to get that. It was going to have Jigsaw as the villain and all that stuff. After Punisher came out, because it did good. A lot of people saw it, and I think it had really great DVD sales.
The last one?
Yeah, the last one did. Yeah, so they were gonna do one. Thomas Jane Forever. He kept talking at like Comic-Cons and stuff about it, and oh yeah, we're gonna do it. Jonathan Hensleigh's coming back. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be even better than last time. Whatever you say when you think you're making a sequel. I think he thought that, and he put on like 12 pounds of muscle for like even more, because Thomas Jane already is ripped. But and then like 2007, he was like, well, fuck,
It's not happening anymore.
I guess that's not happening. And so they threw the kind of they're like, we need to make another Punisher movie, so we'll throw it around to this guy. He doesn't want to throw it around to whoever. Oh, none of these directors want it. We'll give it to whoever will take it for cheap. And then Lexi Alexander comes along and is like, hey.
She didn't even want to do it.
Not really, yeah, but she was like, hey, I made like an Oscar-nominated short film a couple of years ago, and then I did that movie that Roger Ebert really liked, so I'll do it for cheap. Sure, I'll do a Punisher movie, whatever. I don't know that much about him, but I'll take it on. And then she learned a lot about Punisher and was like, oh, so these comics are fucking ridiculous, right? Let's make a movie that's fucking ridiculous.
Then she proceeded to copy and paste like 70% of the movie. That's not a bad thing, though.
it's a great thing. this feels more like, and I hate saying this because whenever I say, oh, this feels so much like a comic book, I think about the reviews for when Spider-Man PS4 came out. Every review
makes you feel like
this makes
Spider-Man.
You feel like Spider-Man.
Just like the Batman reviews.
Yeah.
Makes you really feel like you're Batman.
Yeah, on every fucking box for that game. Feel like the Dark Knight or whatever. It's like, oh, wow.
In every trailer.
Yeah, what do you think is going to happen in a video game where you play as Batman?
It'll make you feel like Batman.
Should go without saying that you would feel like Batman.
You feel like Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird if a Batman game makes you feel like Spider-Man. I don't know why they printed those on all those boxes. They just kind of were like, okay, so we have the Marvel Knights and the Marvel Max Punisher series written by Garth Ennis and drawn by Steve Dillon, which I talked about in our last episode because a lot of that, especially the Welcome Back Frank story, inspired that movie. Even more of those comics inspired this. That is one of the best comic runs of all time, I think. I think every issue of that is an incredible issue because of Marvel Knights, which I do need to talk about because it's one of the best movements in all of comics other than like Icon, I think, or not Icon and Image. Both of those are fucking...
Are we about to have a history lesson?
Yes, we are. In
Okay,
1998, when Marvel was going bankrupt, Joe Quesada and Jimmy...
Another guy.
Jimmy Paltomi, I think? They were like, okay, guys, so, we still have our long-running Spider-Man and X-Men Fantastic Four stories. We have all these kind of B-list, C-list characters. We should do something with them. And so there was a push for, like, they took Daredevil, they took Punisher, and Elektra, and Luke Cage, and all these people, and they were like, oh, so you guys have kind of been falling behind in the past 5-10 years. We're going to push you up front with, like, heavy creator-made stuff, and really high quality, because a lot of comics were, like, mass-produced, like, there's some beautiful art in the 90s, but a lot of it is like, oh yeah, we'll draw Spider-Man in these 14 poses, and then we'll put those in every issue and every panel. But then this stuff, it's like, okay, well, we're gonna focus on telling, like, solo stories, where it's still in Earth 616, but it's not like, oh, read this comic to understand what's happening in this comic, and read this comic to understand. It's like, oh, we'll tell a 3-issue story about the Punisher on an adventure or whatever. And it's really great, and the art is always perfect, and the writing is incredible, and it was kind of a push for really strong character stuff that was really beautiful to look at. And so Garth Ennis, he got Punisher, which was his main thing because he hates superheroes. So usually he writes a lot of great stuff, like he writes Preacher.
Yeah, best person to be working at Marvel is somebody that hates superheroes.
Yeah. He's an angry Irishman.
Like all of them. I'm kidding.
Oh yeah, kind of. But yeah. Basically, Garth Ennis, he writes these amazing, incredible comic stories, but he doesn't write superhero stories. That's why he writes Punisher, and he writes these people who, they're murderers usually and terrible people, but he's really fucking great at writing them.
He's really great at writing terrible people.
He is. Maybe that sounds like an insult, but it's absolutely a testament to just how incredible he's able to make. Because I still love Frank Castle when I'm reading these, but I'm like, you're an absolute monster and a criminal, and you should be stopped. But also, you're killing bad people, and I understand why you're doing it. But also, stop, please! You've killed 100 people in this issue. I don't
Please stop!
Please stop!
He's already dead.
Yeah, exactly. Ralph Wiggum needs to come in here.
He's already dead.
Marvel Knights, they were like, oh, so we had a Daredevil film that was just made under the normal Marvel Fox banner, and all these things. Marvel Knights will have its own film unit. And so they made Punisher Warzone was their first one. They made Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, which was their second one. And then they went away forever. They shut it down.
Because both of those movies bombed.
Yeah, even though they were really accurate to the characters, they made them and were like, oh, that's too comic booky and fun. Let's stop. It's like, oh, yeah.
This isn't the two characters that everybody knows. Oh, well.
Yeah, if it's not Spider-Man or it's not an MCU thing, fuck off forever. Like, it's like, wow, guys.
Just like how it is now.
Yeah, well, now,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is the same. No, it's the same. It's still the same. Things haven't changed.
Well, they gotta start dragging random characters into the MCU,
now.
The
MCU has all these characters, people watch them again. So,
like, imagine them trying to make, like, an Eternals movie that doesn't have to do with the MCU.
No one
that
would
movie
ever
would
see
bomb.
it. People wouldn't even know it was a Marvel movie. Like people probably didn't even know Punisher Warzone was a Marvel movie. They're
Probably
like,
not.
Punisher Warzone, what's that?
I
Some,
think that's how
80s
most
action
of these turned out.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I think
you wouldn't-
so too.
I feel like I wouldn't guess that Ghost Rider was a Marvel movie, or like
No,
Blade
you
was a Marvel
You
movie.
wouldn't think so. No, not at all. And I feel like there's still a lot of people who don't know that. I mean, I think people who are into it obviously know that, and even if you're just a casual fan, you're like, oh, sure. But I think if I was like, hey, grandma, Blade, she's like, oh, that vampire movie? It's like,
Yeah,
not that Marvel movie.
Like, when I think of movies that you really wouldn't think are Marvel movies, like, out of the very small group of people that have seen Howard the Duck, how many of them know that he's a Marvel character?
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone really knows. I mean, there's not even like a Marvel flipping comic logo at the start of that movie.
Is Marvel credited at all?
I don't think like it's one of the opening credit things.
Yeah, I feel like it's in like
and stuff, and it's like, oh, I guess now we're in it. In Blade, I don't even remember. I think Blade gets like a Marvel logo where it's just the red box, and so is X-Men. Spider-Man was the first one.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think a lot of these weird characters, it's like, yeah, you might not know because
they don't count.
You wouldn't think, yeah, but yeah, no, I don't know. So I love that Marvel Max made these movies not Marvel Max, Marvel Knights. Max and Knights, they're very similar, but
What's
similar
the difference?
but different. Max is technically a different thing. Like they did, like even just looking at my shelf, they just did like Jessica Jones, and they did some Punisher stuff, and they produced a lot of Garth Ennis Punisher stories. But they're technically a different division, and not all Knight stories are Max. Even though I think most Max stories are technically Marvel Knights stuff. It's kind of it's
cool.
It doesn't matter.
Comics are confusing, and I hate them.
I know. Wow.
No.
Wow. Weird that you're doing this show.
No.
Yeah. And another reason Thomas Jane didn't want to do this was because he thought it was too comic booky, which is like,
come on.
Come on. I mean, that first Punisher movie is a lot more just like a crime thing. And this is such a wacky, like silly.
There's a
movie.
lot of CGI blood in this movie.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of practical blood too. I think a lot of it is.
I feel like a lot of the CGI stuff, like you can really tell that's CGI and it doesn't look too good.
I barely even kind of thought about it. I thought most of the effects in this movie, since everything is mostly just head explosions and stuff, I thought it looked really good. Like I didn't even have a problem with that, which usually I do because CGI blood has never looked good. I think there's enough like it's mostly practical.
Yeah,
I'm not like, oh, there's these CGI moments that stand out to me.
I feel like that makes it stand out more, though, because if there's more practical stuff than when there's CGI stuff, it's like, oh, that looks really weird.
Are there any moments in particular that you remember?
The first one that comes to mind is when Punisher's holding the kid and just shotgun blasts that guy, like point blank range, when he's like sitting at the table. Like, that looked really bad. I like it.
Love that moment,
I love it.
Is that the bit when the cop is there?
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite moments. Because it's like after that huge shootout, and he's like arresting that guy, and he shoots him, he's like, Frank! God damn it! Yeah.
I just remember like seeing it and just being, oh no, that doesn't look very good at all.
No, I didn't even think about that. And usually I would pick that stuff out, but no,
there's only
it didn't bother me at all.
There's only like 2 or 3 scenes that are like that. I just thought that like when they use the CG, it looks a little rough.
I just changed the audio, so if it sounds different now, that's why.
Gabe just fucked it up.
We've been having a lot of problems with our audio box today.
We don't know how technology works.
We're kind of clipping and stuff, so if this episode doesn't sound great, I'm sorry. I'm probably going to come in here for like a couple hours soon on my own and try to fix it up, just because I feel bad about not giving you guys perfect audio quality all the time, but it's really tricky sometimes. I don't know what it is.
Because our equipment hates us.
Yeah.
Or it hates Gabe.
It hates me. So. Even though it's good equipment, it's just like, if I don't know what one knob does, the whole thing's going to fall apart. So I guess just as far as characters go, the Punisher is used in the perfect way, and he's perfect, and he's great, and I love him. I think he's so good.
I don't know how I feel totally about the look.
Yeah, well, I was actually just about to bring up that Big Boy Noah, all caps on Reddit, said he wanted to know our thoughts on the Punisher costume. And that's, honestly, I feel bad because Ray Stevenson is the like perfect Frank Castle Punisher in this goddamn movie. He's so good and like cold, and they say in that How Did It Get Made podcast that's like he probably has a page of dialogue, which he should, because he shouldn't be talking that much. But the costume isn't great. I like that it has a weird turtleneck, and I like how tactical it is. I just don't like the skull.
I don't like the skull, and I don't know how I feel about the turtleneck.
Oh, I like
feel
it
just
that.
Looks stupid, and I'm pretty sure he gets choked at like 2 different points in the movie. But how? He's wearing a turtleneck that covers his entire neck.
I guess they get under it or something. I don't know.
How? It's his entire neck.
Yeah, what? Yeah. It's no, I mean...
I feel like it just looks a little stupid.
Sure. I think it's badass. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I fell for it.
I do like that he's not like all muscle though. Like he's kind of unfit.
And I like that.
I feel like that's how it should be.
I like that it's not a t-shirt that his son gave him from the beach. Like it's not. It's just a fucking bulletproof vest with a skull like stenciled on.
Even though I do like, I think my favorite look for the Punisher is Thomas Jane for sure.
No, I should say Thomas Jane is my favorite looking Punisher. I hate that origin still. I think that's dumb and bad. And that actually brings me to a point that our best friend Paul said. I don't even think he's actually seen this movie. He says he has. I don't think he has, because I said, "Oh, I guess you have no thoughts on Punisher Warzone," because we're talking about Power Rangers since I mentioned it last week. And he said, "I remember the chandelier bit, which we'll talk about later when we talk about how crazy this movie is." It's like Hulk, where it's sort of a sequel to the other Punisher movie, except it isn't, because he had a son in this one. Or in that one, and then this one he had a daughter. He has both in this one.
He has a son and a daughter.
Yeah. That's about all I remember. I don't remember enjoying it that much, and then he keeps talking about Power Rangers. That's all we have from Paul this week, so I just felt like I should read out now instead of just doing a dump of everybody at the end of the show. Thanks, Paul. We love you.
We
Number one
appreciate
fan.
it.
But I don't think that this is supposed to be a sequel. Everybody says it's a reboot, and I think it is. I think it has a sequel title, but I don't think that makes it a sequel at all.
Yeah, I feel like this one is like way too different to be considered. Like, they're not even the same style.
No. I mean, that one is such a gritty, kind of realistic thing for the most part, and this is the most goofy fucking this is one of my favorite. I don't know. It's my favorite depiction of a comic book
does a
ever.
front flip off of a roof and then blows up.
Oh, the parkour is so great. It's so funny. It's so funny.
With a heat-seeking missile.
Yeah.
And then he throws the bag with it down a vent.
Yeah, okay. All right, sure. I'll talk about the parkour guys. I wish I could remember what they were called, because they have such a hilarious group name.
Oh, fuck. I want to look it up.
Yeah, look it up.
Their name is it's so stupid. I don't even know what to look up.
But the reason that that's in there is because after the Bourne Identity, that kind of revolutionized action movies in the way The Matrix did, even though the Bourne Identity is kind of trash. But that movie it started like this huge movement of parkour, and so we started getting parkour in every movie. Die Hard 4 had a huge parkour sequence. Casino Royale has a huge parkour sequence. And so Lexi Alexander was like, "You guys hate parkour in movies, right? So what if I took that and I had these parkour guys, and they're the most cliche, annoying fucking guys who can only travel via the most ridiculous parkour sequences in any movie while awful music plays, and I blow them up and impale them on fences." Like I just love that complete subversion of, this horrible trend that's happening, I'm gonna end it forever. It's so good. Yeah, like I can't even think of a similar example to taking such like a weird cliche and just being like, nope, kill him.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a unique thing to this
movie. It is. I think this whole movie is absolutely
I was
unique.
gonna say this movie is very unique, but like not in a bad way.
No, in the best way, and I think it's beautiful. Also, this is a really good looking movie, which is weird. I think I don't want to mess it up. I think the cinematographer's name is Steve Gaynor, and he does an absolute amazing job. Like, there's so many rich greens and kind of like murky streets in this movie that are just, I don't even know how he was able to get those shots where it just looks so good. There's a lot of you see a skyscraper from the first floor and then it pans up so you can see the whole thing. There's a part when that happens and then the moon comes from over the skyscraper. Yeah, it just looks so beautiful. I don't know how he does it.
Wasn't the last one kind of like that? Like they just had really nice, just random shots.
Yeah, no, it's that.
I think that's just a Punisher
it has
thing.
some good inserts, I think. And actually, every kind of frame and composition, every single frame, if you pause it, it looks like a frame from a Punisher comic. And I don't just mean like in a Sin City way where it's super stylized, but where people are in the frame, they'll always be to the side with a lot of like empty space. They take up a third, and then the rest is just environment. That's how comics are drawn, in the way that every single conversation scene is like that. It's incredible to like pause scenes and just be like, wow, like that looks like somebody just recreated this kind of
Okay,
image.
so I found the name of the group.
Oh my god, what is it?
McGinty and the Urban Free Flow Gang.
Yes, the Urban Free Flow Gang. Oh, I love McGinty also with his dreadlocks. He looks like Jack Sparrow.
I literally could not tell what his accent was supposed to be.
He was like Jamaican almost.
Irish, apparently.
Oh, really? Okay, well,
I
that's kind of funny.
I guess they're an Irish. They're a bunch of Irishmen that do parkour, and they're the Urban Free Flow Gang.
Well, I love the Urban Free Flow. I want that tattooed on my head. The Urban Free Flow Gang. That's so weird.
You're a member of the Urban Free Flow Gang?
Franny, I was born and was raised and will die.
You were born doing front flips.
I was born, yeah
and
just
getting your limbs blown
seeing
off.
how I could traverse any object as complicatedly as I could. Yeah, I love that so much. I love
They're
that.
literally just there.
Complete subversion. Because when they first show up, you're like, oh, we're gonna have a really dated parkour, and then it's like, oh, it was a joke. That's so good.
Yeah, they have like no plot significance whatsoever. They're just there, and then they get blown up.
Does that mean that it's time to talk about Billy, Jigsaw himself, the villain of the movie? Jigsaw is one of the Punisher's like most esteemed villains, and it's so great to see him on screen for the first time. And then we got him again in the Netflix show.
How was that?
It's good. It's pretty good. The scene where he becomes Jigsaw in that show is really fucked. It's not as good as in this when he falls.
Yeah, when he falls into a bottle
bottling
recycling
plant like crusher, and it crushes him. And then again in that podcast, they talk about how he's not like, oh, somebody help. He's like, fuck you, Castle, I'll fucking kill you. He's your motherfucker. Like, it's so
That's
great.
just what you do when you're getting recycled, I guess.
Why are they there? That's such a weird place to meet up.
Why wouldn't they meet up there?
I don't know.
You would never suspect.
You'd never suspect it.
You'd never suspect them to all meet up at the bottle recycling plant.
My favorite like thing that's supposed to be inconspicuous in any superhero movie, or probably any movie where there's like a mob deal, is there's a scene in Batman 1989 where there's this corrupt cop, and then there's this thug, and the thug just hands him a sandwich. Like in a bag, but then he takes the sandwich out of the bag. It's just a piece of bread and another piece of bread with like $100 in the middle of it. Like that's the bribe. It's just like, that's not suspicious to see a gang member handing a cop a sandwich.
No.
What do you think is in there? It's so stupid. I love that. I love shit like that. It's so. Like, it's just like, yeah, you don't get it, do you? But I should real quick show you the Netflix Jigsaw origin, because it's really brutal.
Yeah, I kind of want to see. I Googled Jigsaw because I was curious, because I messaged you yesterday, like...
Oh, yeah, of course.
It's a weird coincidence that his name is Billy, and he changes his name to Jigsaw, and then in Saw... the exact same thing.
Well,
the doll's name is Billy,
yeah.
But name or what, like the nickname or
the
whatever, is
alias
Jigsaw.
of him, even though his name is John.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's super.
It's still a weird coincidence.
They're both produced by Lionsgate
Yeah.
Films, which is really interesting. Also, I love that. So let me just pause this real quick
Okay.
and show you the origin thing.
A few minutes later.
So yeah, basically Netflix Jigsaw, he has a great scene where he gets his face smashed in, and then like he's
It's
non-existent.
like 10 times, and then
He doesn't
it's
exist.
really disappointing.
It's so disappointing that
He has like 3 cuts on his face.
I know, it's so shitty. I hate
He just
that.
has stitches.
Yeah.
Which in
it's
this, he
really
literally looks like Leatherface. So.
Yeah, he does. No, he looks like he looks like Leatherface. He looks like a fucking scary. The makeup's really good, actually, because they'll just show it in broad daylight. Like they barely ever keep it in shadow because they're like, yeah, this is a good effect, and we'll just keep using it because it looks good.
Is it makeup, or did they make a mask for it?
It's makeup. Yeah, he would spend like 2 hours, I think, a day, and then another hour to take it all off at the end of the day. So, yeah, I think it looks really great.
Yeah,
that's
it
like
looks good.
he's got like the bloodshot eye and stuff. Yeah, and he's so ridiculous, especially with his brother Looney Bin Jim.
His name is James.
Sorry. Please, gentlemen, call him James. Yeah, no, he's fucking crazy.
He's gonna get his applesauce back.
I'm gonna get my applesauce back.
I love when he's smashing his head in all the mirrors.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry, Billy. You'll never have to look at yourself in the mirror again.
Despite the fact that where he breaks all the mirrors, you could still use it. Like, it's still gonna reflect perfectly fine.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, and later in the movie, there's those broken mirrors, and he looks at himself. And basically, it's like, oh yeah, you can still see what's happening. I kind of like that scene though, where he's just throwing his body, like every part of his body, into mirrors. Because that guy's crazy. He eats a man. He eats a man's organs.
Yeah, he eats a man's heart. Like, very clear. Like, in the scene, he's literally eating his heart.
Yeah, and now I just want to bring up what Andrew Osborne said. He said, probably my favorite Punisher movie. It's so over the top and ridiculous. It circles back around to being funny, and then he's left a link to the applesauce scene. Because that's like, that's definitely a standout scene in this movie. And it's the most cartoonishly, like, Arkham Asylum type place. It's like a castle on a hill with, like, lightning flashing. You see, like, the like famous exterior shot, where it's just, the sign in the forefront.
I just like the small detail of over the course of the movie, he just has more and more bandages, just like all over his body,
cuts. And I like that he has as many like exposed injuries as bandages.
Like, there's just like a scene of them talking where his knuckles are just completely covered in blood, and he's just like licking it.
He's so crazy. He does such a great job. Yeah, he does.
For no reason,
he
he
goes,
just
meow.
is. He fights Punisher on all fours.
Maybe they actually that's a good argument for that. He does do a lot of cat-related stuff.
He scratches him.
Yeah, he does.
I think he just has a weird thing about cats.
And I love the final confrontation kind of thing where they have Micro, played by Newman from Seinfeld, aka Dennis Nedry from Jurassic Park, aka
that's where I knew
Al
him
from Al's Toy Barn. So it's
oh god,
Wayne Knight, he's so amazing. I love him, and I love him in this as Micro because we didn't have that character in the first one because Jonathan Hensleigh, who directed that movie, hates that character for no reason. I don't know why. But where it's like, oh, we'll kill Micro or we'll kill this little girl, like, and just that scene with Jigsaw, and like that's the most crazy fucking thing. And then they just blow his brains out, like it's just a shot from like his head,
and the fake out.
Yeah, exactly. And they destroyed his grandmother's head, which is so sad.
Yeah,
when he comes in and her head is gone. But her hair is still there.
It's like 3/4 of her head.
Punisher punches a man in the face and his head implodes.
Yeah, he snorts cocaine.
Yeah,
and then gets his skull literally destroyed by a single punch.
And then the guy in the elevator, or the guy like in the elevator or on the toilet or whatever,
he's in the elevator. Yeah. But fucking the guy that gets his face punched in, that's the exact same scene where he shotgun blasts the guy.
It is.
It's like within like a minute. It's like 2 minutes between each
other. It's the
other.
thing that happens before that.
Yeah,
he punches the guy who looks exactly like Billy Russo's head in, and then the guy's like, "Oh, we're taking you in," and he blows his brains out. It's like, oh,
he blows his everything out.
Yeah, and how great is Soap in this movie? Because we've never seen him on screen. Like, because in Punisher Max, he's always just the bumbling cop who always wants to, he's kind of working with Punisher and they're kind of friends. He's so incompetent, and he's just like, he's comic relief basically, and he's like, oh, Punisher, I probably shouldn't be helping you out, but I always will because I'm kind of obsessed with you and I love you, but I probably shouldn't be doing this. And he's fucking picture perfect, like just like everybody else in this movie. He is perfect in this as that character. He looks like a lot like Sean Astin from like Lord of the Rings and the Goonies and stuff, who plays Sam. So like he looks a lot like him. I would love to see him play that character, but
they do look really similar.
Yeah, they do.
I was thinking about it. They
look exactly alike, pretty much. But
they're almost identical.
Yeah, I know. I don't even know if I can tell you who's who.
Yeah, it's weird how close they look.
Yeah, I've always thought that anyway. But yeah, no. So I love him in this movie. I love the scene where they're in the car and he has Frank in the back. He's like, "Let me out, Soap," and he's like, I can't do that. And he's like, "Let me out." He's like,
"Okay, fine,
whatever."
But he comes in with a little hat.
You mind explaining to me how a handcuffed criminal escapes custody from the back of your locked car?
That castle's a slippery one.
I don't know how you can love this movie.
Oh no,
I
love it.
This is definitely one of my personal favorite movies that we've talked about, because this This is just a movie I love. Like, I love to watch it. It makes me happy. You know, when people are like, oh, it's a comic come to life, usually you think of like Sin City or Watchmen or something like that, or like certain moments in Marvel movies. But this is every single part of this, the atmosphere, the cinematography, the acting, it's all... Everybody loves Punisher behind the scenes, clearly. And now, you want to talk about a real-world tragedy, or do you not want to talk about it?
Fuck it, we can talk about it.
Okay, because this has been a really fun episode, but I think we got to bring it down
Yeah.
real quick. So Virginia...
Can't have fun all the time.
Okay, so I'm sure a lot of people would be familiar with the Virginia Tech Massacre. In 2007, a student at the Virginia... I assume it's just the Virginia School of Technology. I don't know what it actually is, but something along those lines. It's one of the worst massacres in history as far as on a campus goes. I think 32 people were killed in the span of like 2 hours. And the notable thing about that is that in his dorm room, he had a Punisher poster, and he had like recreated some of the Punisher poses or stuff, these pictures you can find of that happening. He'd kind of based himself on that, like, but he was like, the ideology was backward. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna go seek out evil people like a Dexter type thing. It was just like, oh, well, you know, he kills people to make himself feel better, so I'm gonna do it kind of thing. And so... Wasn't it like a week? Or no, it was like a couple days. It was like when Lexi Alexander was supposed to go in and pitch what she wanted to do. And so her response to that really worked in this movie's favor, because she was like, oh, okay, so what I have to do is make all the violence in this movie as over the top as possible so nobody can imitate it. And so that's why we get people exploding with rocket launchers. And yeah, so she was like, okay, we're not going to react to this by being serious. We're going to react to this by making it as ridiculous as we can. So, I mean, that's an awful thing that happened. But when you look at it as one of the reasons that this movie is like that, it's like, okay, well, I understand that's probably the best way to go about it. That's a sad thing that I feel like we just had to acknowledge, because it's a real world horrible thing that happened, and it inspired, well, an element of this movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough about that. It's
enough
just
depressing shit.
That's
Back
why
to
that is
getting
the
their
way.
heads punched through.
It's so funny. Like, okay, what's the? I don't even know. I can't even say. Yeah, and I don't want to keep throwing back to that How Did It Get Made episode, but they just say so much great stuff. The finale happens in the first 5 minutes, and every scene just tries to top it. Like, the first thing that happens is the Punisher comes in, decapitates. He just decapitates. It's like It's like an old man.
Oh,
He just cuts his head off. This old mob boss cuts his head off. He gets on the chandelier and does like the John Woo spinning with two guns thing, but it's the best version. Because he's just shooting everybody at that dinner. Like, all of them can't be bad.
There was a couple that was just kind of there.
And
like,
he kills
they
them.
didn't do anything, and he just fucking kills them. He just shoots them, like, point blank in the face.
That's why the police should not be using the Punisher as a role model, by the way. That's another thing.
So, like, right after that scene is when that one cop lets him get away by giving him the keys to the car.
He punches himself in the head.
Yeah.
Which is... what a great movie. It's so great. And I love that scene where he's like, the new cop is there, and he's like, oh, so which one's the Punisher file? And he's like, all of them. There's like 100 filing cabinets around them.
It's like
every
it's
single
an entire
one.
room full.
Every single one is about the Punisher. Which is just... Oh, and you know, Freddie Prinze Jr. was going to be Jigsaw, which is interesting.
I want to see it.
I kind of want to see... I feel like he'd be good. I feel like he could do that. I think absolutely 2008 Freddie Prinze could do that.
Okay, it's kind of sad, but I can't see Freddie Prinze Jr. in anything because it just makes me think of the Scooby-Doo movies.
Oh, okay, yeah, he's bad in that.
Yeah, because he's fucking
so
Fred.
Yeah, he's Fred.
But I watched those movies like a lot when I was little. So now every time I see Freddie Prinze Jr. in like anything,
it's just Fred.
Hey, that's Fred.
Yeah, that's Fred. No, I get it. I always just think of I Know What You Did Last Summer, where he's like the really abusive asshole.
I saw him in that movie, and I'm like, Fred's being really weird.
I love that makes it sound like you don't understand that he isn't Fred. Fred's being really weird. What the hell? Even though that movie was before he was Fred. I guess his name is Fred, so that would confuse you. Oh, I'm meeting Matthew Lillard in April, by the way.
Of course you are.
I'm going to dress up in my Stu costume and meet him, and I wonder if he'll remember
that
that tweet that at the horror convention my dad and I always go to. All of the Scream cast is going to be there.
Really?
Nev Campbell's going to be there. Fucking Randy's going to be there. I don't think Dewey's gonna be. I don't think David Arquette will be there. But
Probably not.
yeah, but I'm hoping that we'll get to see a little reunion between the four. Well, Courtney Cox is off doing her own reunion with the Friends cast. We're gonna get to see all the other ones do a Scream reunion, which is one of my favorite movies ever. So that's gonna be great to see. I can't wait to see that.
I kind of doubt that Matthew Lillard is gonna remember.
No,
the
I don't
tweet,
think so either.
But I mean,
it wasn't that long ago. But
that's why like there's a chance.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm kind of like, well, if he retweeted me, that
just make it really weird.
couple
Like, show him
likes.
the tweet. Like, remember when you did
no.
this?
Yeah, I won't do that.
That was me.
No, that's weird.
Yeah.
I did show when I met Felissa Rose from Sleepaway Camp. I did show her my light switch, which is her at the end of that movie, and then the dick is the light switch. And she thought that was awesome. So, that has worked out for me at one point.
I've seen that light switch a couple times.
It's pretty great.
I never understood it.
Have you seen that movie?
Of course I haven't.
Oh my god! You would fucking. That's one of my favorite movies. Also, we're gonna have to watch that.
Yeah,
that's such a great movie. She's so nice.
I never understood it, and I just didn't want to ask. 'Cause so you just have like a naked person,
12-year-old.
Yeah, just on your wall.
Yeah, I do.
With a perfectly placed light switch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I got that
yeah,
at a
just
convention too.
Just didn't really want to.
We're gonna have to watch that movie soon. That's definitely one of my favorite
Kick-Ass
movies.
and then that.
And then that, yeah, it'd be a great marathon. And Ray Stevenson, just like Thomas Jane did, he was like training with Marines and stuff, which is always cool when it's like, oh, you guys went to that level, like to actually become Punisher. It's great. And I guess we should mention, just because it's like, oh, kind of obvious thing, or maybe it's not obvious. Maybe I'm being an asshole. But Ray Stevenson is still, or I guess he's not now, but he was in like the MCU. He was Volstagg in the Thor movies. He was one of the Warriors 3, like the big kind of dwarf form with the axes. So he's been in Marvel movies since.
One of the most forgettable characters in the MCU.
Oh, they're good in the first one, then they just kind of get sidelined in the rest of them.
They're just, I mean, it's hard to remember the random characters from Asgard when you have when there's like thousands of MCU people at this point.
I still love Volstagg and Sif and the other two.
The third guy.
The other two.
See?
No, there's two. Well, there's two other ones. Sif isn't technically part of them, but she's still their friend. She's cool. She was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at one time. Because they were like, who can we get? Can we get Lady Sif? Bring her in. No, she's good.
What was the context of bringing in an Asgardian?
Came in from Asgard was like, how is everything? I heard Thor was
how
here.
Is Thor Odinson?
No, I think she literally did. I think she's like, Thor was here that one time, right? Because they got their cameos have been, they got Maria Hill, they got Samuel L. Jackson one time, and then they got Sif. Those were the cameos on that show.
Yeah, you know you're important to the MCU when you're on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and that's it.
Oh my god, and you know one of the Warriors 3, do you know who he was recast as? Because the blonde guy, he got recast as fucking Zachary Levi Shazam. So, like he's Shazam in those in two of those movies, which is so weird.
Yeah, I forgot that was a thing that I knew.
Yeah, it barely matters, but it's still hilarious.
They're like barely characters.
They're barely characters. They're in that first one a lot. I feel like you're gonna see that first one and be like, oh, they were really banking on these characters.
Maybe.
I think it was also because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. started around the time that Thor: The Dark World came out, so it was probably a promotional thing.
That was their ad. Lady Sif is
Lady
in this.
Sif is...
You know what else she's
Lady
in?
Sif.
Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah, okay, and she's not in Ragnarok. She's not even in it.
Don't they all die at the end of Ragnarok?
No, they all die in the middle of Ragnarok, like really early on.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as Hela shows up.
Yeah, I thought they were part of the ship thing, but no, that's everyone else on Asgard.
Like the four characters with names are the ones that get killed.
First. It's like Odin and then all of them.
Yeah, it's so embarrassing. The Warriors 3.
Imagine being one of those three, and that's like your only role in the MCU is just to be them and then die.
At least he was Punisher in a pretty fucking awesome movie. I love Punisher Warzone. It's definitely one of my favorite movies that we've ever done and probably will ever do. It's not one of the best movies, but it's definitely one of my personal favorites. Because it's an 80s action throwback. It's a throwback to like canon movies that would not go to theaters, but you'd watch. And be like,
no, this definitely isn't like an actual good.
It's not a work of art, although it is like actually pretty and it's actually well acted.
It is actually very pretty.
but
not
it's
a
so
serious
silly.
movie.
It's so this is an absolute fun, which is funny. I love that all the the posters are really gritty and everything because it has to be, and then you see it and it's just ridiculous.
McGinty and the Urban Free Flow gang
getting
blown up.
We have to get
Their kneecaps getting shot.
We have to get some piece of merchandise for this room. Put it on a t-shirt. We have to get some piece of merchandise for this room. That's McGinty and the Urban Free Flow gang. Yeah, for sure, because that's so funny. Nobody works 9 to 5 in this also.
Working 9 to 5.
Which is a testament. Everybody is a character. I love that. The wife isn't really, but at least she's grieving over her husband. She's still got emotional depth going on, I think. That's still good. I can't even, this movie is just such a fucking ride that I can't even think of too many things to talk about going forward.
Literally, on the way here, I didn't even, know what I wanted to talk about. Because there's just so much.
There's so this movie where we are not talking about even our favorite moments. I bet that we've left out because there's great shit.
There's just so much. When you're half an hour into the movie and you see a rabid psychopath saying that he wants to take his applesauce back and then proceed to eat a man's heart.
Why does Billy start calling himself Jigsaw for any?
So we've talked about that. I hate how people get their names in all these movies.
This is the best example.
So I believe it's while he's in the hospital, or is it after?
No, it's in the hospital. He's looking out the window.
So he's looking out the window, and there's a, I guess it's one of those TV billboard things.
Yeah.
And it has a newscast on it, and this newscast is apparently.
I think it's a commercial.
It's something. There's something on a billboard. And it has to do with a jigsaw puzzle
of the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah. So then in the next scene, they're in the car and he's like, "Don't call me Billy, call me Jigsaw."
I love that he's
weird accent.
And he's wearing a fur coat.
Yeah.
like a hat, like a fedora. And he's like, "Call me Jigsaw. Billy is dead."
Yeah, Billy is dead. Call me Jigsaw.
I love him. He's so
and
great.
the scene right before, so between the two is when he stabs that doctor with scissors for fucking up his face.
Yeah, that's a scene that's also kind of lifted out of the 80s Batman movie. Because he goes to that back alley surgeon, then it leaves or whatever. But in this, he gets fucking murdered. It was a scalpel or whatever.
No, I think it was a pair of scissors.
Yeah, probably.
Through his forehead.
Whatever the grisliest thing it could be. That's what it is. The only other thing I can really think to talk about is the recruitment scene, which in the past when we brought this movie up, I've said I love this movie, but there's a scene that's kind of offensive. I don't think it is. Now knowing the context for it, I don't think that it is at all. I think I was just kind of now
the recruitment thing.
Yeah,
I don't think
it is at all.
Yeah.
I think when I watched it last time, I was watching it with my dad, and it was 4 a.m. and we were just oh, that's a little weird. But now looking at it in context, it makes a lot of sense.
It's definitely a weird scene. It's absolutely absurd, but it's not offensive or anything. It's not. It's okay. So this scene is Jigsaw and Looney Bin Jim. So they go to. So this is to get ready for the big fight.
So they can have the Punisher Warzone at the end.
Yeah. So they get this rundown motel, and they decide that they're gonna go get as many people as they can to try to kill the Punisher. So they go to all of the gangs in New York, I guess. Is that where the movie is?
Yeah, yep.
They go to them by race.
Yep.
But each of them have representations of their race. The Japanese gang just has I'm pretty sure they just have do they have a Japanese flag behind them?
They have something. I know that Billy and Looney Bin Jim have the American flag.
They have the American flag behind them while they're talking.
Some patriotic song is playing.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one. It's the Saints Go Marching In or something.
Probably. There's the black gangs, and then there's the
Irish gang.
The Irish gang, and then there's the Asian one, and then there's probably one more. It's probably the Mexican gang or something.
I think so, yeah.
But they just have representations of their races.
It's a 4-leaf clover, a neon sign at the bar in the background.
It just goes between that and then essentially Leatherface and
just an insane bald man.
An insane bald man with bandages all over him. Well, music is playing, and while they're talking about how much they hate the Punisher and how much they want him dead, and that they'll pay them.
We're gonna help. You guys are gonna help us kill the Punisher, right? Because it's supposed to be like U.S. recruitment for like the Afghan war or whatever. For it to be like, oh yeah, because it's so ridiculous. Lexi Alexander was like, oh, I was in one of those seminars and I was watching that Fahrenheit 9/11 thing, and I was like, yeah, that's so ridiculous that anybody listens to these guys. So it's a parody of like recruitment, which knowing that context
makes
for that
it seem
scene
so much better.
makes it hilarious. Like that's such a great thing. That's so funny.
Think starting from there all the way to the end of the movie, it's just amazing.
I think the whole movie is
no,
perfect.
okay.
I think every scene is
the
better.
entire movie is great, but I think the best part of it is just like that last like half an hour.
It has one of the best climaxes ever.
It's just so good.
Because the whole movie, you're like, are we going to be able to top all of the shit that's come before at the end? And we are.
Grenade in the can, and then you just perfect aim, just like a soccer player just kicks it.
Yeah, or when he fucking shoves the like grenade launcher through the door and then he shoots it and it kills everybody. Like that's like one of the most stylized where he like goes in the middle of all of them and it blows them all back.
Yeah.
Like that's a really impressive shot.
Got in the elevator again.
Oh fuck.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Its set exploded. Also, the hotel's called the Bradstreet Hotel, and Tim Bradstreet was the artist who did all the covers for Punisher Max, so there you go. I just wanted to mention that, because I think that's cool. Yeah, that's pretty much all we can say about this beautiful movie.
You just gotta watch it for yourself.
If you haven't seen it, which you probably haven't, because it didn't do super well.
Yeah.
This movie's fucking great. It's one of my favorites.
You know, so I still think I kind of like the Thomas Jane one a little more.
Sure, it's a better made movie, and they're both very good.
I think that's why, because they're both amazing, but I think I like the Thomas Jane one better, just because it's more of like an actual movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of like, I guess just because it doesn't take itself as seriously, and I mean I guess I like them for different reasons. I
don't totally.
I like this one because it doesn't take itself seriously at all, and it's just really fun. But I like the other one because I just like Thomas Jane as Punisher, and I just like how the story goes, I guess. But yeah, they're both amazing. And then Dolph Lundgren's Punisher's just kind of there. That one's not bad.
I still like it.
I still like it, but it's just like
it's barely
can't really compare to the other two.
Yeah, I think like I don't want my insane love for this movie to kind of denounce how I feel about the 2004 one. I think that one is also really great for its own reasons. I think just because I am such a big fan of like cheesy canon 80s action movies, and this is like just such a throwback to those, and like it's that aesthetic mixed with such a like vivid representation of the Punisher comics, which I've said are some of my favorite comics of all time. So I think this one is my favorite. Kind of maybe it's a little biased, just that I like that it doesn't take itself as seriously. That's so ridiculous and so accurate to how those comics are written and portrayed, and that there's so much love for the character in this movie. I think that the 2004 one does that too, where it's like, oh, you guys who made this movie, you all really like this character. Clearly, I just think I prefer the kind of more insane take, because those comics get crazy, and I think that this movie captures that. But I still love both of these Punisher movies. I think we're really lucky to have, because the Punisher is one of the most unique and probably one of my favorite Marvel characters, so I think it's insane that we get to have two very different but also very good like cinematic versions of that character.
I think each one captures like the two like really big parts of Punisher. There's like the really serious side of Punisher, which is like the Thomas Jane one, and then there's just like the absolutely like batshit insane part of Punisher comics, and that's what this movie was.
Yeah, the comics go both ways. Sometimes it's very serious.
So we just have like the perfect like yin and yang kind of thing with
no,
these two
it
movies.
Is. These Punisher movies are also, both of them are incredibly underrated. I love these movies. I think they're honestly some of my favorite Marvel movies still, because nothing is really like them, and I love them, and I love this movie. I think I know I've said it 100 times, it's so annoying to hear me keep saying it, but it's just really great. These
are some very unique movies, and we're probably not going to get another one. Do you think they're going to make a Punisher movie for the MCU?
We had 3 seasons of an MCU Punisher show. I think
that's probably as far as we're going with it.
All the characters that we've done in Netflix shows, we're probably not going to get another version of them. I would like for some of them to be filed into the MCU. Like, I would love to see, because people want Daredevil to be like Peter Parker's lawyer for the whole Peter Parker Spider-Man
That'd
case.
be pretty cool.
I would love that. I think that's great, because I love a lot of the depictions of those characters. I love, especially like Luke Cage and Daredevil. They're great, and Jessica Jones also. Not so much Iron Fist and Punisher for me, but that's just because I think I have I have very clear versions of how I want those to be, but I would like to see some of those filed in, but no, I don't think we'll get like another version of these. I think people still like that show now.
I feel like it'd be a little weird to get like a Punisher MCU movie, seeing as like most of it, I'd say the MCU as a whole is like pretty like PG-13.
Oh, well, every film has been, so I couldn't really see it going farther than that.
And I mean, the furthest we've gone is like Thanos getting decapitated.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Like, some arms getting cut off, but like...
If we don't count the Incredible Hulk, a lot of terrible shit happens in that movie.
Yeah, but do you think anything like Punisher level terrible?
No way.
Like, yeah. So I feel like it'd just be a little out of place, and then if they made like a PG-13 Punisher,
absolutely
it just
not.
Wouldn't feel
it's
right.
Not the point.
Yeah.
I don't really think anything could top these Punisher movies for me. I think I have exactly the movies that I want to have for this character. So, but yeah, no, it's an interesting thing. Yeah, I don't need to see another attempt. I think we have some pretty solid, very distinct versions of it.
I think we've got them down with this one and the last one.
Yeah. Okay, so just quickly, I'll read what people have said that I haven't read out yet, and then we can wrap up. Travis Bow said, I need to see this one again. I liked it well enough the first time I saw it, but I didn't care much for Dominic West Jigsaw. This movie isn't going to be for everybody, but I mean,
I think it's definitely not for everybody, but I mean, if you feel like watching a movie that'll make you laugh, and if you like insane gore, then you should probably watch it.
You should probably watch it, yeah. And I think maybe if people saw it like when it came out, maybe people should watch it now in comparison to everything that's come after and be like, oh, this is so different and interesting. And then Tyler Thornton similarly said, I had a hard time with this film. I'm sure it's better than I remember, but I really liked the Thomas Jane Punisher and wanted a sequel to that, which is also fair, because that is a very good movie. And I would kind of like to see him again, but I don't know.
At this point, it's too late.
No, not now. And we had Dirty Laundry, which is that's fun. And then we have two things I haven't read out yet on Reddit. We have The Bus Rustler says, personally, I think it's solid. This is the epitome of turn off your brain. Even though it has basically no backstory for Frank or any kind of character moments for him, it's a humongous celebration of just pure, immature, excessive violence. And as I get on in years, I find it easier and easier to utilize my little boy brain and just enjoy something for the sheer stupid spectacle of it. Is it a good film? Not particularly. Is it a bad film? Not really. Does it let the character of Frank Castle shine? No. Does it give you a perfect showing of what the Punisher is all about? Absolutely. Yeah, I think, pretty much. Honestly, I do think it does a good job of capturing like what Frank Castle is all about, because I think everything that he does in this movie is a great character moment.
Yeah. So they have obviously all the Punisher stuff, but also they do have scenes of him like thinking about his family, and like when he had that breakdown at the next to the grave.
Yeah.
So I think they show well enough. They do decently okay with like Frank Castle.
I think so too, and I think the moments like when they're in his headquarters and the little girl's there and she's playing with the snow globe or whatever it is. Yeah, I think stuff like that is really touching in this. And then the last thing we have is George Manero on Reddit also says, It's all a Punisher fan needs. Perfect Frank. It's brutal, gory, over the top, and it has over the top Jigsaw, but a very bad script. Oh, I like the script. I don't know. Yeah, I'll fight you. You'll probably never hear this. I'll fight you. Okay, well, that's great. I'm so glad we got to talk about this movie because I fucking love this movie. It's just so fun and different, and I love that.
And then do we have a less fun movie next week?
We have a fucking head case of a movie.
Oh no, week. It's Origins, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh no,
we're gonna have a blast, Franny.
I am not looking forward to it.
And then after that,
I'm kind of looking forward to it.
After that, it's basically all MCU all the time.
Are you okay? What's after?
Not constantly. After that, we have Iron Man, and then we have Thor, and we have First Class, and then we have Captain America, and like it's just gonna keep going.
I thought First Class was later.
No, First Class 2011. In the middle of Thor and Captain America.
That was like 2013, 2014.
No, 2014 stays Future Past. 2013's Wolverine. So. The Wolverine.
Yeah. There's a lot more X-Men movies than I usually remember.
There's a fuck ton of X-Men movies.
There's so many.
There's about to be like a huge cluster of them too, but we have a little bit more MCU stuff to do first. So yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, you should like it, and you should subscribe to us, and turn on those notifications. Is that what people tell people to do?
Yeah.
Okay, and comment.
Because YouTube's bad.
And YouTube is bad, and so that's why we usually just push it on other platforms. But if you're watching this, thank you so much.
Listen to it on other stuff instead.
Yeah. Oh, we should also probably start thanking Paul for the art every week. We didn't. I don't know if we had a crazy theme this week. If we do, I'll put something in post about it. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at MarvelMoviePod. You can email us at MarvelMoviePod@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram at FlipDeg. You can find me on Twitter at FlipDeg with the E and 3. Franny lives under the ground because his family was killed by the mob.
Yeah, I do. That's about it.
Is there anyone that you swear vengeance on?
Not particularly.
What
Still
about-
figuring it out.
What about Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Coming for you, Freddie Prinze Jr. Better watch your ass.
Look out.
I'm gonna get my applesauce back.